Greetings, Superintendent Nelson.
Hello, how are you? Thank you for coming, Mia.
Yes, thank you for having us and joining us for another superintendent talk this year as well.
Can't believe it's already a new school year.
The time goes by so fast, especially during the summer.
Yes, it's a busy time for us.
It is, it is. Well, the KHOU 11 News team conducted a back to school survey. And the questions I have for you today are from the KHOU 11 News back to school survey. And I'm sure it'll come as no surprise that the top concerns of parents in Alvin ISD is about security and safety. Some questions here. A parent asked, what is the school district going to do to keep students and teachers safe?
So first, Mia, let me say safety is our top priority, and I think the commitment of Alvin ISD for many, many years. We've had our own police force for well over 20 years here in Alvin. We currently have over 40 officers, armed, licensed officers. And so we have enough officers to cover our campuses, but we also, since I've been superintendent, contracted with over 150 other officers who work in various municipalities, other areas. And so as far as officers, we have plenty to cover our campuses. To keep our students safe, our officers go through a lot of training. During the summertime, that's what they spend their time doing, training for active shooters, doing crash training, something called CPI training, which is known to the educational world, but our officers are very well trained. We also have security vestibles in all of our schools, and there's a lot of things parents don't see that we can't discuss because that would compromise our security.
Yes, that may pertain to this next question. What type of security enhancements have been made to prevent entry?
So prior to the state mandating these different security measures, Alvin ISD started to retrofit our existing campuses with the security vestibules. But with our new construction, we have what we call the next generation security vestibule, and you witnessed that as you came in to Harvey Junior High this morning. There's an additional entryway to where there's a window now that parents must check in. We also have doorbells on most of our schools where all the doors are locked around the school. We check them daily. We have police officers that go around and check them, but also our staff is really good about checking the doors and making sure that they're locked at all times. During the summertime and throughout the school year, they check each door functioning properly. And if not, immediately a work order is put in and it is addressed within just an hour or so. Our maintenance and operations department, as well as our director of safety and security, do an excellent job to make sure our schools are safe.
Was Alvin ISD a part of the state audit to test doors locked or unlocked?
Yes, so they came monthly to Alvin ISD and checked, and we passed our, with flying colors. But in addition to that, we had an external audit this year by Edwards Risk Management, and our board will be briefed upon that audit at our next board meeting tomorrow evening, actually. But I can say that we had a clean audit and no findings.
I want to circle back to officers because we had another parent who had a question about it. Will there be better surveillance and officers around schools? Do you have enough officers at every campus?
Yes, so like I said, we have 40 officers, trained officers, armed officers that we employ in Alvin ISD. That's above and beyond what's required, and we continue to add more. But in addition to that, we have our 150 contract officers that will pick up different jobs each day for us and help cover. And then we have our municipalities who we have great working relationships with, and sometimes we'll call on them simply to help out, and they do, and vice versa. We help them out as well.
With the officers that you have on staff and also with the contract officers, does that mean you have an officer at every campus, including the elementary school level?
So we do. Each day there's an armed officer that is on the campuses. And so as you know, with any profession, if somebody calls in sick, that's when we rely heavily on our contract officers. And then we have contract officers who are parents, and so they'll pick up their child's school every day if there's an opening. And so that makes it very nice, a great partnership.
Give parents an idea of what type of surveillance and watch is taking place on the campuses.
So I can tell you that we do have cameras on each campus, and they are monitored continually. So there's that surveillance. Of course, we always say if you see something, say something. And so our staff does a good job. If someone is in the parking lot and we're monitoring the parking lots and they see something, then immediately an officer will go out and address and ask the person perhaps sitting in their car, you know, can I help you? What are you here for? Those types of things. But so I feel like we have really good surveillance at each one of our schools.
We've done extensive reporting about fighting on campuses. This is for various different school districts. We have a parent who asks, how should my student best protect him or herself from fighting?
Well, I would hope first they wouldn't get involved in the fight. I hope they would step away and ask for adult help, which staff is on duty during passing periods, during cafeteria time. We have adults on campus that can help the students. So I would advise this student to seek help from one of their teachers, instructors on campus if they need to prevent something.
We're seeing that in the secondary schools, the high schools, and it seems like sometimes there's a hallway surge when these fights do happen. So I think speaking to that, what's your advice? If the child's not directly involved in this altercation, but it's a crowded hallway and suddenly we're seeing people surge, what's the protocol there?
So we train our staff to be visible and to be present. And so I would hope that wouldn't occur, right? But if it should, there should be a staff member close by that would intervene and then also get additional help from other staff members.
Got it. Let's talk now teacher compensation and teacher retention. Again, an issue for a large number of school districts, I should say. We know that House Bill 3 provided funding for school safety enhancements, but parents in our survey want to know, how will you address the lack of funding increases from the state in other areas, especially given the increased cost of everything, and talking about compensating teachers?
So in Alvin ISD, I feel like we have been fiscally responsible, and we have a rainy day fund, our fund balance, in which we've been able to do several things that yes, we have been hampered by the funding from the state and the unfunded mandates, and I can address that a little bit on the security side. But as far as teachers, we were able to raise the starting salary to $62,700, which is one of the higher ones in the area. And we've continued to be able, our board has voted to give each teacher a 3%, well, all staff a 3% raise across the board. I know that doesn't cover all cost of living, but we were able to increase the salaries that way as well. So I think, yes, as much as we want the state to help out and kick in more money, we can't always depend on that to happen. You know, with the safety and security and the funding there, it's an unfunded mandate that they're requiring certain things across all school districts across Texas. But our commitment has always been to make our schools safe, even before they mandated it. So the increase that they gave, the stipend of $15,000 a campus, they increased, I believe, approximately 25 cents a student to $10 per student. That doesn't cover one police officer's salary, much less all the hardening you have to do with the equipment that you're having to put in, the vestibules that, I mean, I feel for some of my colleagues in other districts that do not have the funds. So I would like to hope that, you know, if that is a top priority for our state legislature, is that they come through with more funding to fund the salaries that these police officers are costing. Just equipment alone is $8,000. That's above and beyond their salary. And then if they get a vehicle or things of that nature, it's very costly.
You mentioned the pay being raised for teachers, that starting pay, and it being more competitive. Do you believe that will help the district recruit more teachers and quality teachers, as our parents inquire?
Right. I believe it will. We currently have 7 openings, and we're very proud of only 7 openings. Our staff, our HR staff, our hiring staff, our principals across the district have worked all summer long to get high quality teachers in place. I'm happy to say it's 1 in elementary school we have an opening, and the other 6 are in the secondary school. So we're very pleased with that. Retention is very important to us, creating that environment for our staff. But also I think community needs to throw their support behind teachers, and we need to get off social media and quit criticizing our teachers each day. Come see what they do. We welcome our parents to come in and volunteer. We have certain programs that they can come in, our mentoring programs. We have booster clubs, parent organizations. And the parents that do, they see what teachers do and our staff does on a daily basis. And I really do think that, you know, our teachers are our heroes. And prior to COVID, they were our heroes, and then something went south with everyone wants to criticize and be quick to criticize, not just teachers, but everyone in general. So I think everyone needs to get on board to support our schools.
How much is the difference between the communication that you see on social media versus the in-person contact-to-contact communication?
So I think contact-to-contact communication, face-to-face, is the best. I know Ms. Rives, our Executive Director of Communications, a lot of times will pick up the phone and call a parent after they've posted something online that maybe not be accurate or it's out of context. And once she gets on the phone with them, she's like, they're the nicest people, they understand, they just didn't have the, you know, complete understanding, and it turns out well. Now, are we going to be able to give everybody the answer they want? Not always. Because of the rules and the safety and the things we've had to put in place, sometimes parents don't feel as welcome as they once did when they have to come up and knock on the door to come in. But we do still want parents in our schools. We still want them volunteering. We just have to go through the process to get the background checks and make sure that they're safe on our campuses.
How challenging is it dealing with that outside communication on social media?
Well, it is challenging, and a lot of people can hide behind a screen and say whatever they want, be it true or false narrative, and then we wonder why our kids are acting out sometimes. It's because they're seeing the adults in their lives act out and how they handle things when they don't agree. So we need to work hard to be good role models for our students and set the right example.
Let's talk laptops and computers. A parent wrote to us that despite having multiple fundraisers, there are never enough computers for all kids. Teachers use computers too much for lessons. This also brings us to another parent who has concerns and believes there's not enough school electronic devices for students, yet there's an abundance of lessons that require such tools. Does the district have enough digital resources for students?
So we feel like we do, and the state mandated that we have computers for testing for the STAR test, and of course we started that a year before the requirements start. So purchasing equipment is not the issue. It's servicing it, keeping it up to date, keeping it in use. And so each campus has an abundance of electronics. It's just we don't have them where the kids take them home each day, which we tried that back in junior high several years ago, and we found that that was not fiscally responsible because they disappeared or they broke or things of that nature. So yes, if a parent is struggling with their student not having access, we definitely can work with that parent to make sure the student has the resources to do their lessons.
And is it something that's being utilized from elementary to high school, depending on their electronic devices, more to complete or take part in schoolwork? I know you mentioned testing, but speak to us just how much they're using these devices.
So we hoped that, and we know that this to be a fact, is that teachers got away from doing more of the electronic lessons and more of the face-to-face instruction, small group instruction, and things of that nature, so that, you know, during the pandemic, a lot was done online, a lot was done in Google Classroom, but we've really encouraged our staff to get back to more of the face-to-face teaching versus all on electronics.
So maybe perhaps they would have assignments that are digital or notes, kind of what type of curriculum, if you have any idea?
So Google Classroom is what we use. So several teachers do put assignments in there, and then students have to be able to access those. We've done surveys in the past of who hasn't had a device and who at home. so that we make sure that we are able to support that child to get their work done. So I think if a parent is concerned or there's been an issue, they just need to reach out to their campus, and then we will work with them.
The teacher directly, would you recommend, if they're having a challenge, having a digital device in their home?
Correct. We have a lot of resources and donations that come through the district that we could help with assisting with that.
From enough computers to enough buses now. We had questions about transportation. This is an issue also for a number of school districts. Still, Alvin parents want to know, how is the transportation issue heading into the new school year?
So we still have a bus driver shortage. We have increased the starting rate to $20.50. So as we increase that, the other bus drivers also get an increase, so that keeps that step in place. But as far as shortage, we are running over 100 routes a day. We have enough buses, it's the drivers that we need. So a lot of times our mechanics drive, anyone with a CDL license drives. Our coaches who have CDL license, it's important for them to drive their students to their games or tournaments because of the driver shortage. So parents will see earlier pickups or later drop-offs because of that. We may have a bus driver who's running 2 routes. It's just the challenges right now with the work shortages out there in all fields.
How will that be communicated, or is that established before we even really get started here, the earlier or later pickup times?
So our transportation department does a wonderful job in notifying parents what the anticipated estimated pickup time is, as well as the drop-off. And then we also have an app where they can track and see where the bus is, where their child is.
The parents have an app
Yes,
they can track
yes,
their,
that they can see, yes.
It's been a long, hot summer. I don't have to tell you. You know well, along with everyone else here in Alvin. With students headed back to school, though, with 100-degree plus temperatures, parents are concerned with this forecasted heat. What precautions are going to be taken to ensure that students are safe in this heat?
Great question. This morning we actually we had a team that met with our elementary principals to remind them about recess time and monitoring the heat, making sure students stay hydrated and not spending as much time outdoors, making sure there's shade available for students to get into. And so that just occurred again this morning, even though we've reiterated it throughout the summer because we've had summer programs, summer school going on. As far as our secondary campuses, those that are involved in extracurricular activities, we have athletic trainers on site that help with and making sure we have water stations out there, giving frequent breaks. We have Methodist Hospital we team up with for athletic training as well, so we have those resources and they provide us with a lot of great information.
Is it safe for the kids to be outside?
Well, I think that, you know, as long as it's monitored and students, parents are comfortable with it, kids need play. They need downtime. And so if we can't get it outside, then we'll figure out a way to do it within the classroom because the gym's being used all day, throughout the day for PE and things of that nature. So it definitely will be monitored closely. Several of our playgrounds, actually our parent organizations have put canopies over so there's shaded areas.
Nice. So we talked about outdoors and keeping kids comfortable. Let's talk about indoors. This is a beautiful new campus. Obviously, the AC system is relatively new, but let's talk about the status of AC units and upgrades at some of your aging campuses as well.
So we have done a remarkable job, our operations department, maintenance and operations, with upkeeping you know, maintenance on our facilities as well as our AC units, heating units. This summer, I believe we had one go down at one of our schools, and immediately we have great relationships with our AC companies. They brought out some temporary AC units. Of course, the school wasn't filled with children at that time, but we'll have backup plans in case something like that happens.
It's hard to learn if you're not comfortable, right?
Right, right.
Hard to work as well on the
that's
staff
right.
side too. But speaking of learning, can you tell us about the district's approach to closing those learning gaps? We know from research that there are these gaps in learning due to COVID and ongoing. What's taking place in Alvin ISD to help those children who may be behind?
So one of the things that we have found effective, and of course it's research-based, is small group instruction. And we have seen gains in small group instruction, also intensive tutoring, small groups either before or after school, or carving out time during the day to pull small tutoring groups. But we have seen progress there, and so we're very excited about that. Our curriculum and academic teams have gotten together to really focus on the areas of need and really pinpoint that.
For those parents who aren't familiar with small groups, whether it's teacher-led or tutor-led, what does that look like? Is that 3 to 4 students at a time within the classroom, outside the classroom?
So outside the classroom, it's usually 3 to 4, right? And it's led by a teacher, someone with the knowledge of education and how to really focus on those areas of concern. Within the classroom, it could be 5 students. It just depends on if they're covering a certain area, who needs that small group instruction.
And to keep adding here, another parent's comment, they shared their 8th grader, had math teachers quit halfway through the school year, 2 years in a row. Is there a plan in place to help children in these unforeseen circumstances?
So in the past, when we've had that occur, we've had like an instructional coach who's usually a specialist in that area, or curriculum coordinator work with who might fill those shoes and really teach side by sides to make sure that they get really quality instruction during that time.
I see. Let's talk about another issue that appears to be on the rise, various school districts, vaping. What is going on in Alvin ISD with trying to curb vaping?
So we have, we led, I think, last year in testing our, when there is vaping, we test it to see what it is the student is vaping. Of course, parents are notified. Students are put into ISS and or alternative placement depending on what's in the vape. And so we will continue to aggressively address that with the support of parents. If students are getting the okay at home, and we have had a parent or two say, well, what's wrong with it? It's not hurting. It's not allowed in schools, period. I mean, e-cigarettes are not allowed, vaping's not allowed, THC's not allowed, so don't even bring it. And so we just have to work together with the parents, and each student is different.
Are students being educated? Is that a part of the code of conduct, so to speak?
Yes, so last year we brought in assembly, we brought in a guest speaker who talked about the impact of what vaping does, and we're hoping again to bring them back and maybe start with even a little bit younger age to try to make a difference prior to them getting addicted.
I know you said safety is the top priority. What's the biggest challenge in Alvin ISD?
Social media for students, and I think about that as a safety thing as well. If parents want to do one thing, monitor what your students see on social media. We have no control over that. If you think about how many students have a smartphone and what they have access to, and then think about what you subscribe to at home, if it's Netflix, Hulu, whatever it may be, what access does your child now have? I think about growing up myself, and we were in bed by 9 o'clock. Primetime TV came on, and they didn't say or show things until after the kids were in bed. That's why they called it primetime. But now our kids have access all day long, all summer long, to things that if their parents knew, they wouldn't allow it. And so I think that's a challenge for educators now, is that the access they have to so many things out there that are not age appropriate.
And are they bringing that into school? Are they watching it at school? Make the correlation there. I understand overall,
Right.
but how does that make it difficult within the school district, within the classroom?
So they're not watching Netflix and Hulu or anything like that, but on their smartphones. And last year we did implement that cell phones were not allowed during instructional time. Each campus slightly varied on if they allowed it at lunch or not, you know, for students to be able to check their emails or do whatever it may be. Now, if a teacher wants them to use it for instructional purposes, they may. But during instructional time, cell phones are not allowed. But we have no control when the child goes to the restroom, what they're looking at, before or after school, what they're looking at. And so, yes, that can become a challenge. We do not like to have to take a phone up, but if a teacher or someone has directed them to put it up because it's being distractive, then we do have to take the phone up.
Does that contribute to bullying issues, fighting it between students, what's going on with their phones and their social media as well, that you don't have
Right.
control over?
I would hope that it wouldn't, but I can tell you I think it does, because when we have seen a fight or something, it's usually started outside of the school. It's something somebody sent me last night and they're upset about it, and then they let it escalate versus getting an adult or a teacher or someone involved. A lot of times parents aren't aware of it. And so we know, having been with adolescents, that a lot of times they don't include their parents when there's a struggle or when there's a challenge, and that's why our counselors are so important. But not just counselors, the teachers in the classroom sometimes can really help talk through some things with students or refer them to counseling.
That's who they spend so much time with,
Right.
after all.
Right.
Right, and they know them the best. We've talked about the challenges. What are you excited about in Alvin ISD this year?
I'm excited for the 29,000 plus students to come back. I'm sure we'll hit 30,000 this year. I really get the energy from the students when I do go on campuses. I have a superintendent advisory group that I'm anxious to get started and really get feedback from students and what they want and what they're seeing on their campuses. Of course, our staff, it's always great to interact with them and see their excitement. And we're opening a new elementary school this year, Nichols Mock, out off of 288 South, and then also this wonderful renovated Harvey Junior High School that's over 40 years old, has been renovated, so aging facility, but it's upgraded now for our staff. So very exciting things happening in Alvin ISD, and can't wait to get everyone back.
You had great advice for parents. What's your advice to students this school year?
Oh, be kind to one another, be nice, look out for one another, be a friend, engage in everything that you can get involved in things. I think when students are connected, they're more successful. So, if parents need help getting students connected to something, reach out to your school. There's lots of activities, clubs, things that really for students to get involved in. We have great fine arts programs, great athletic programs, but beyond that, clubs. And start your own club. All you need is somebody to sponsor you, and a lot of times we get those started in different high schools, and so we're excited. And yeah, just be a kid. You grow up way too fast. Just be a kid and enjoy and really take advantage of the opportunities that are there, both academically as well as extracurricular.
That's great. I know with involvement, parents are always like, oh my goodness, that means I've got to provide extra transportation perhaps outside of school buses and everything. Is there help there? What's your advice to parents who are like, I'm struggling just to keep up with getting them to and from school, but they would like to see them involved more?
I think reaching out to that school and then working out, a lot of times there's carpools that are available, or activities where students can be involved without having to necessarily stay for long hours. I know parents are working, a lot of them, so just reaching out to whatever it is that they want to do and then letting us help them achieve that.